Welcome to Comics Are Awesome, brought to you by Alter Ego Comics. I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And we are here to talk about this week's best comics. This is a big week for DC with the release of Doomsday Clock #1, which we'll get to shortly. And honestly, not much else came out. There's a bunch of other stuff, I guess, but we were saying when we were checking in the shipment, I think Marvel kind of ceded the week to DC. It was like, you know what? You're going to win it. We're just not going to release anything. But my pick of the week is Action Comics #992, written by Dan Jurgens and Robbie Williams, artwork by Will Conrad, and this is the first issue after the Oz Effect. It's actually labeled as the Oz Effect Aftermath. I enjoyed the Oz Effect. I think a lot of people were expecting it to tie into Doomsday Clock, and I think it was some maybe internet rumor or people wishful thinking, but I don't think, and probably calling this guy Mr. Oz when you have Ozymandias and the Watchmen was a little disingenuous on the part of DC.
They put him in front of a big bunch of TVs, and there's a lot. I mean,
it was kind of a red herring, I think.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think it was an enjoyable story, and I think it puts Superman in an interesting position now, which is where we pick up with him basically questioning everything that he's ever known. And trying to verify that Jor-El, that the person who has been calling himself Jor-El, #1, was in fact Mr. Oz, #2, was in fact Jor-El and escaped Krypton after Kal-El did. So that is what this issue is about. And we get guest appearances by Batman, by Green Lantern, by the supporting cast of Superman, and it's just a very solid issue, and the interactions between Superman and the other members of the Justice League as he's trying to find these truths is interesting to me. So that is why I made it my pick of the week. And Will Conrad's artwork is amazing. So thumbs up to you, Mr. Conrad. I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to go a little unusual here. My pick of the week this week is not a comic, although it is a book with pictures and words. It is The Die Hard Christmas. It's A Die Hard Christmas. And we'll begin with a selective reading. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and up in the tower, everyone was partying except one wallflower. That's right, this is the story of Die Hard, retold in rhyme to the kind of night before Christmas thing. It is awesome, it is epic, it is everything I want in a Christmas book. That is all I had to say.
It should be on everyone's Christmas list this year.
It is, obviously, because it's about Die Hard, it is not appropriate for everyone. People get shot, and there's blood, and there may be some words that you remember from the film that are not, appropriate for everyone.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yeah. But it's just, it's so good.
I think it's one where you gather the family around at Christmas,
as long as the family's
on Christmas Eve, and instead of reading 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, you read A Die Hard Christmas.
A Die Hard Christmas, yes. Just epic. And there's a big, resurgence in, Christmas movies that aren't Christmas movies, like Gremlins, Die Hard, Lethal Weapon. And that's awesome.
Those are my Christmas movies.
I knew it was going to be cool. I was surprised how much I liked it.
All right, moving on. Doomsday Clock is here. Doomsday Clock #1 of 12, written by Jeff Johns, artwork by Gary Frank. And here's what you need to know. Before you read this, I would definitely read Watchmen.
Definitely.
It's an absolute must that you read Watchmen before.
So come back in 6 months after you've worked your way through Watchmen.
Don't bother with the movie until somewhere. Don't watch. You can probably if you're short on time.
Get by with the movie.
If you're short on time, you can probably watch the movie. And then I would say Rebirth and The Button, or just The Button and not Rebirth.
You could get by without either, but yes, they're both leading into what's going on in here.
That sets up the DC side of things. Watchmen obviously sets up. And this is the collision of the Watchmen and the DC universes. And it delivers. It is a jam-packed, oversized issue. No ads. Full of glorious artwork by Gary Frank, done in the 9-panel Dave Gibbons style from the original Watchmen. And I can't say much without giving stuff away, other than you should absolutely buy it. It totally delivers. A year-long series, folks. This is pretty heavy. I can't remember the last time we had something like this. And, man, there's a lot of art in here.
I should note, it's not all the 9-panel. I mean, it's the
tight
grid like Watchmen.
There's a lot of 9 panels.
Yeah. But there's like text pieces in the back.
Yeah, same way that the original Watchmen was. You get the Joe's Diner menu in here. We get looks at covers, upcoming covers from the series. Man, it delivers. And here at Alter Ego Comics, if you get here before we run out, we do have promotional Doomsday Clock buttons and lithographs, and I think many stores around the country do as well. So head on out soon, pick up Doomsday Clock #1. You will not be disappointed.
Next up on Alter Ego Comics TV, I'm sorry, on Comics Are Awesome, Josh still loves Nightwing. So I've got a three-peat of awesome Nightwing books that have been awesome every issue. Gotham City Garage #4, the Catwoman in this post-apocalyptic motorcycle gang world picks up Nightwing to help with the heist against LexCorp, and of course Kara Gordon, I guess, Supergirl, is there. The last part of Summer of Lies over in Batgirl 17, that is a two-timeline story with Dick and Babs going on adventures versus the Mad Hatter and other related people. And it is so good. Hope Larson can write Dick and Babs stories forever as far as I'm concerned. And last up on that side, we've got Nightwing, The New Order #4, written by Carl Higgins. Carl Higgins. Carl Winslow.
Kyle.
Future and future Nightwing, bad stuff, superpowers, sort of dystopian, I guess is probably the best word. But we do get to see a lot of DC characters we haven't seen before, or at least have only seen hints at previously in the timeline. We find out what goes down, and it's awesome. There's so many things to like as a Nightwing fan this week.
The DC trifecta for me this week: Detective Comics #969, Fall of the Batmen, Part 1. This kind of brings a spoiler back into the Bat fold. We get the reunion between Stephanie and Tim, which is very emotional. Written by James Tynion IV, as always. Artwork by somebody. Art
Carney?
Must be at the end. There we go. Artwork by Joe Bennett. Top-notch stuff. This book, really, I don't know how many times I need to say it or have to say it. Detective Comics is right up there with Batman as the top 2 books that DC is publishing right now.
Yep.
So good. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we've been talking about Detective all the time. It is part 1 of a new storyline, so you could jump in if you haven't been on Batman or Detective Comics for a bit.
And you can follow it from this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll pay off better if you've been reading the other ones. At least the first volume and then the most recent Lonely Place of Dying stuff, to figure out where Tim and everybody's at. Next up for me, a bunch of Marvel stuff is still awesome. Or
next up
awesome.
For Josh, all the books Marvel published.
All the books Marvel. They really didn't put out a lot, did they? So we've got a one-shot Silver Sable 36, written by Krista Faust. No idea who that is. Penciled by Paulo Segura and Jose Luis. This is a little more light than most Silver Sable books. She's going on missions, saving people, or maybe not saving people, maybe murdering people as needed. They're bad people, though it's okay. But we get very kind of crazy, over-the-top moments, like her punching someone and yelling, "Nazi punching is my jam." It was just surprisingly fun. I didn't really expect much.
Does it explain how she came back from the dead?
It does not. Matter of fact, some of the people in here are like, "Wait, weren't you dead?" But they don't touch on it at all. But yes, super fun. If you like Silver Sable, if you like kind of light books, it was fun. If you do not like light books, you should check out Punisher the Platoon #3. Ennis writing war stuff is awesome, and this is more war-y than most. Invincible Iron Man 594. Tony's body is missing, and his mom is pissed off about it. And she goes rockstar S.H.I.E.L.D. agent on some people who give her crap. And we also get to see Doom get his comeuppance from the villain community for betraying them by becoming a hero. And just awesome. I don't know how long Bendis is going to be there, but I will read it as long as he is. And Star Wars 39 continues their kind of Rogue One tie-in stuff with the original cast going back to Jeddah, and just some great character moments written by Kieran Gillen. Salvador Larroca's art is, as always, top-notch, and basically photos from the movie. Dude uses photo reference heavily for these characters, but you have to. Han Solo has to look like Han Solo, so... Lots of fun stuff from Marvel, even if it was not a wide volume, because they were scared of the Doomsday Clock.
Yeah, Iron Man was in my stack as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Public service announcement time. Superman American Alien is out in softcover this week. You may recall we talked about the individual issues. We also talked about the hardcover when it came out. All right, if you haven't picked up the individual issues or the hardcover, it's time to buy the softcover. This is written by Max Landis. Every issue is written by Max Landis. Basically chronicling Clark Kent's life.
Yeah, so, this is not a Superman book.
No,
like,
this
is not
a,
Superman. And maybe
this is more about Clark than it is about Superman, and it's a different perspective on Clark. One of the cool things about this is there's a different artist on every chapter. So this was this 8 issues originally?
It's 9 actually, maybe.
It's not telling me. Okay, but we get amazing artwork. We got Jock, Francis Manapul, Jay Lee, Joelle Jones, Nick Dragotta. So good. We've got pull quotes by the New York Daily News, The Onion, Paste Magazine. What else can we say? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think the key thing to note is because each story takes place at a different moment, basically each story is highlighted a specific part of his development or a specific part of his personality, and the artists are married to that wonderfully. You know, you get, was Joelle Jones the boat stuff, and like it's all, they picked he picked the perfect artist for each type of story to be told, much like Gaiman did with the Sandman arcs. So it's a very crafted sort of story. Even if it's not really one story, but it kind of is.
It is.
Awesome.
It's one big story, but and it is chronological. So you're starting out with Clark as a boy, and we move to Clark as a man by the end of this, and in costume by the end.
It is a little more hardcore in some places than most Superman books, but it's not super tied to continuity. So somebody who kind of likes Superman or is aware of the character will enjoy it. So it would make a great gift.
Yeah, and I think again with Justice League being in theaters, I think that this is a great idea for someone who likes the movie version of Superman, the current movie version of Superman, or really any version of Superman. It's for the Superman fan on your list, or for yourself. All right, so that is it for this week's comics. We have about 12 minutes left. So what we're going to do is do our Justice League review now. So let's do a non-spoiler version of the Justice League review. And this will be quick because you have to spoil it to get into the nitty-gritty of the Justice League. So I enjoyed it. I walked out of the theater very happy. I got a lot of things that I wanted out of a Justice League movie. The character interactions, the portrayal of Superman was finally done right after missteps on Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. So I felt very pleased with it. In fact, the night we saw it, we got out and I gave it a B. I still stand by that grade. I stick with it as a B. A B movie.
Yeah.
And that is a B across all movies, not just the DC movies. A lot of people are evaluating this compared to other DC Universe movies or versus Marvel movies. I'm just saying, as a movie, Justice League for me is a solid B.
And I also enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I didn't like it quite as much as he did, or I'm more nitpicky than he does. I gave it a B- that night, and I would stick by that. I might dip it into the C+, but it's definitely worth watching. If you're at all a fan of superhero movies, there's a lot to like on the screen, and yeah.
Yeah, pay no attention to the critics. Every comic fan that I've seen on Facebook, everybody on our page, all the friends that I have who've seen it, everyone has enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, no one has bashed it. No one has hated it. No one agreed with the 43% or whatever on Rotten Tomatoes. So
do you remember what Batman v Superman got? Was it less than 43?
Like a -7.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I wasn't sure.
So there you have it. There's our quick review.
So if you don't want anything spoiled, go home now. See you next time.
Stop now, and we'll see you next time. If you would like a spoiler-filled review.
It's filled, but there's some.
Yeah, some spoilers. Stick around in 5, 4, 3. All right, so you go first.
It's a mess early on, but it gets better as it goes on, and that's the way I'd prefer it. You know, I always talk about how much I love first Avenger, the first Captain America movie, except for the last half hour. So it kind of deflates as it goes on. Whereas Justice League just gets better as it goes on. You can absolutely see the influence of Joss Whedon in specific scenes, but also on the movie as a whole. The character interactions are top-notch by the end of the movie. Early on, we still get some weird stuff. Cyborg's a little dark initially, but then he kind of evens out. I was really impressed with how much they made Cyborg matter. And I mean, arguably, I guess you had to make him fairly... Cyborg and Aquaman were the two that people knew the least about, so because they don't have TV shows or past movies and stuff. And so the plot sort of requires Cyborg. Like, there's no version where you can't have Cyborg in there with the plot as it stands, which is by design, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, performances were strong pretty much across the board. There wasn't anyone who I thought was acting poorly. My only complaint from a technical aspect beyond the beginning being kind of muddy is the CG was really rough. Like every time Batman is not Ben Affleck doing stuff. He's super weirdly smooth, and pretty much every scene with Cyborg looks weird because basically his entire body, except this part of his face, or this part of his face, is CGI, and he gets very uncanny valley. But in a big movie like this, you know, where you've got the Flash running at super speed and stuff, so much of it's CGI that it's not a glaring problem, but it's definitely noticeable if you're picky or finicky about your CGI stuff.
And I think that's a curse of the comic fan. You know, we want these movies. We want to see movies based on these characters. We're finally at a point where technology allows that to happen. But in order to do that, most of the movie has to be CGI because you know, Spider-Man can't really do all that stuff. Iron Man can't do all that stuff. The members of the Justice League, etc., etc. So you either have to have really top-notch CGI where you can't tell the difference, or you have what we got in Justice League, where it's not horrible. I mean, it's not Star Trek V bad, but it's definitely noticeable. One of my biggest disappointments is going with CGI villains, and DC, Warner Brothers, just that's all they can do apparently, because in Wonder Woman, Ares was CGI, and Batman vs Superman we had Doomsday, and now we have Steppenwolf, and he's CGI. So
yeah, and Steppenwolf overall was pretty flat. They didn't.
Oh yeah.
They didn't give us much on him.
Yeah. But I liked the interconnectedness in the DC universe. I liked seeing Hippolyta. I liked seeing the little, Easter eggs from within the DC universe. I thought both after credit scenes were really solid. Having the Superman Flash race in the first scene, and then hand to God, we're watching the rest of the credits. I'm sitting next to Josh, and I was like, I'm just so thankful we didn't see Lex Luthor again. I could go the rest of my life without seeing
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. And then the final after credit scene is Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor.
With Deathstroke.
Deathstroke, which was cool. And it was Lex Luthor in a suit, and he was bald, and he was acting much more like Lex Luthor and not force-feeding Jolly Ranchers to people or giving bottles of pee to people. So that's okay. Hopefully they right the ship. I do think that they're going to have to change direction a little bit. They're going to have to part ways with some people involved with the filmmaking process, and they should just hire Joss Whedon right now to make the.
Well, they've already got him for Batgirl allegedly, right? That was the announcement before he came onto this.
But yeah, you can definitely tell where Whedon comes in. You know, the humor. Maybe some of that was Snyder and his co-writer. I don't know, but based on previous track records, I'm hesitant to say yes. But again, I felt really good about it. I have no problem recommending it to anybody that's a Justice League fan or a comic book fan. And it was one where I took my 8-year-old, and I don't think there was anything really objectionable. I think there was more colorful language in Thor and more innuendo in Thor than there was in Justice League. But it was good. I'm looking forward to watching it again when it's released for home viewing. And yeah, and again, this is kind of a nitpick. Again, I'll be the nitpicker. I did like Danny Elfman's inclusion of the original Batman 1989 score, the original Superman John Williams score. You have to listen for it as you're watching the film. I thought it would be nice to get the Flash TV series, the original Flash TV series score in their theme in there, because Elfman did that. But overall, the score is not very impressive.
It's a little over the top in some, it's very heavy, especially early on. They're like this is a superhero movie. It's very...
And you get little bits of Wonder Woman's theme and other stuff. And I was listening to it when I was reading comics last night, and listening to it without the film in front of you, it's not awesome. Yeah. And again, I think DC's kind of stumbled in that area. And honestly, Marvel's done a good job. Like, the Ant-Man score is very recognizable. The Iron Man 3 score is very recognizable. The Avengers theme, Captain America theme, all that stuff. But this is me getting in my soapbox as a huge movie score fan. I just don't think composers are made of the same metal that John Williams and Alan Silvestri and James Horner, the guys that did the classic stuff from the 1980s and 90s, were. So, no offense to anybody, but there's nothing that sticks in your brain. I mean, maybe Giacchino's Star Trek theme,
the new one,
The Incredibles, anything that Giacchino does, he's really good. I may be mispronouncing his name, but
yeah. I mentioned I wasn't crazy about Steppenwolf's characterization. I will say the last fight with Steppenwolf was relatively satisfying.
Yeah.
Especially compared to the Ares fight in Wonder Woman, which is by far the worst part of that movie.
Absolutely.
So it's good that they're fixing some of their problems. They're just not fixing enough of them. I mean, none of the problems... This is one that, as a comic fan, I'm much more comfortable recommending, partially because none of my complaints with the movie are really about the way they're portraying the characters. Like, by the end of the movie, the dialogue, the interaction is pretty much what I want from that group of people on screen. So they're not, it's not that they don't get it, which is, I believe, what was my problem with even Dark Knight Rises and, you know, both of the previous Superman movies, where they don't understand what I want to see in a Superman or Batman movie. This one, they got what I want. It's just they need a little more polish or technical across the board. And hopefully going forward, if they see what people like when they don't, we'll get that. Especially if they leave Joss Whedon in charge. Or put Joss Whedon in charge.
Or put Josh in charge.
I could be in charge. Yeah. I can tell people to do stuff.
And then finally, a couple of quick comments on Brian Michael Bendis going over to DC. We've had some activity on the Facebook page about that, on the Facebook group. Are we disappointed? Maybe. I mean, he's been at Marvel for 20 years. He's created a lot of memorable characters. We both enjoy his writing. 20
years? Yeah.
We both enjoy the heck out of his writing. You know, up to this day, he's Marvel's best writer. Do I want to see what he's going to do in the DC sandbox? Absolutely. You know, do I want to see him write Batman or Superman or to maybe humanize some of these larger than life characters, or is he going to introduce some new characters? You know, let him go at it.
If we look at his Marvel track record, my guess is we'll see more either new characters or secondary characters like Luke Cage was nobody in the Marvel Universe until Bendis put him in Avengers and started making him and put him in Jessica Jones and made him matter again. And I think it'll be, you know, what characters he connects with. Did you see that statement that he issued about why he went over?
Yeah.
About how he went to the Superman Museum in Cleveland and thought about how, you know, he'd never been part of this legacy, and he's from Cleveland, so there's a connection there.
OH.
I-O? You're not from here.
I'm not.
You live here, though.
And so Cleveland is not Columbus.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Go Browns.
Please go, Browns.
So, yeah, I mean, I get it. There hasn't been kind of a seismic shift creator-wise like this in a very long time.
We've had some artists,
right?
Ramita, but that's not.
Those were little blips. This is like 9.2 on the.
Am I more concerned about So does this mean Johns is going to be more hands-off? Because Bendis traditionally isn't. I mean, he writes crossovers, but really it's usually more Bendis has his thing, and then everybody else ties into it.
I don't know. I mean, Johns comes and goes. He's been hands-off. I mean, he's kind of been the architect of Rebirth. Right. But then he's been doing Hollywood stuff, and now he's back doing Doomsday Clock, and I think that's what we'll see.
One
you know,
book. I mean,
Johns will come back once in a while and do something comic-related. He'll continue to maybe oversee some larger initiatives at DC, who knows. Or maybe Bendis is the new Johns when it comes to comics, or maybe Bendis wants to use this as a stepping stone to get into film, which he struggled with while over at Marvel. So.
And if you like talking about Bendis getting into film, he did write and draw a book about it called Fortune and Glory, and this is before he was Marvel. This is in his indie days.
Fortune and Glory.
Yes,
and
it's his. Yeah, we got it. But if you like Bendis' writing, he's basically telling true stories of him trying to get his indie projects sold in Hollywood, and it's fun if you like Hollywood insider stuff. He is drawing it himself, and there's a reason he's famous as an artist or as a writer and not an artist. So take that into consideration.
Yes, the first time I met Bendis was in the 90s, and when I got him to sign something, he drew a little stick figure of something and signed it. So that is it. We have to open the shop and sell some comics, and well, I think we're going to sell a lot of Doomsday Clock today. So go out and support your local comic shop. They appreciate you. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again real soon.